Hello, beautiful people and friends. It is Kathryn and I'm, Elevated Consciousness Coach, 5D Visionary. Hello. We are on All Things Ascension, episode 12. Episode 12. Today we're talking about unity consciousness, principles and practice, challenges and benefits. There's some things that I definitely want to hit on here that are going on in the human collective that are just timely for us to talk about. And in the context of this as well, it's going to be hopefully really helpful. I'm just going to wait for a sec and see who's going to jump on. And so if you're joining or watching the replay, say hello, let me know you're here. How are we doing today, everybody? So right off the bat, I want to talk about what's coming up for me, the Quantum Quintessence Society. If you want to go into a deeper dive with unity consciousness and really look at it through a high-powered lens of the outer dimensional perspective, this is a way to take that information in where you're already visiting this on a quantum level. You're already visiting these outer dimensional levels because you, as a fragment of consciousness, you are everywhere. You are part of everything and all at once. And so what we're doing is essentially remote viewing these potentials, your quantum potentials in the realms of 4, 5, 6, and 7th dimensional awareness. And then we're blending this reality into our 3D reality, enhancing where we're at in our lives. And any time that we create principles and practice in our lives with unity consciousness, we are in alignment with Source. And when we are in alignment with Source, all kinds of magic and miracles start to happen. We start to align with a higher frequency. And our frequency, even though we're accessing higher frequencies now, it's never static. We never stay there. We always evolve through different frequencies. Sometimes we'll dip into lower ones depending on maybe old habits we go back to or old conditioning. But we're also dipping into higher frequencies all the time. And when you are learning to live at the level of unity consciousness, what you're doing is pretty much securing your vibration, or at least getting yourself to a place where you know where you're out of alignment, you're out of being in sync with unity consciousness, so that you can have tools that we'll be introducing in this course that you can realign yourself very quickly. And when you do that, when you constantly make that your default frequency of being in unity consciousness, it's easier to elevate through higher dimensional awareness all the time. You're only in ever accessing then higher frequencies. Sure, our human state of being and being in 3D awareness, we're going to dip and we're going to volley back and forth. We are going to vacillate between lower dimensional frequencies and higher ones. That's just the nature of our human experience here in the 3D time space. But how long we marinate in these lower realities is really up to us. It's a choice. And when you are making the choice to be in alignment with unity consciousness, you find that it's a lot easier to make decisions for the highest and best good for you, the highest and best good for all, and do so with the least amount of resistance for all involved. This is going to be a real deep dive program. That's why we're using 16 weeks to do this. It is a mastermind called Quantum Quintessence Society. We start on March 11th. It is a one-time investment of $299, which is an incredible value for the amount of support and guidance and information and wisdom that you are going to download in this program. And it's a group program. So we're going to, feed the collective of this group, each with our individual awareness and consciousness. And for those of you who are really asking to step up into a higher level of service for yourselves, for your community, your family, for those you serve as clients, maybe you feel like you've hit a wall with what you're offering in terms of your services. If you are an energy healer, a way shower, you identify as someone who's here to bear light on this planet and elevate the light frequency on this planet, then this program is definitely for you. And I'm very excited about it. I can't wait to get started. I sent out my email today to all the enrolled members so far. You can enroll right up until the last minute. You may even be able to enroll later than that. I'm not sure. I'm going to close the doors on it just because I have a feeling there's going to be some last minute joiners. So this is for you. This is for you guys if you feel this call and if what I'm saying is resonating with you. So let's dive into unity consciousness, okay? Unity consciousness really is ascension. There is no ascension without unity consciousness. Those things are inherent of each other. They inform each other. It is part of the same whole of the consciousness of ascension. And ascension is moving into an elevated frequency of being, and that's never static. It's always evolving. It's always moving, okay? We're always pushing the needle forward by simply those folks who are here on this planet holding a higher frequency, holding space for even just those in a small community, or you're holding it for the planet. I do a lot of planetary timeline clearing. So I definitely identify as being someone who is holding a frequency for this planet. And by pushing the needle on my own growth, constantly healing shadow, constantly looking at, okay, what kind of resistance am I holding now? There's always new layers to unravel there. There's always more to deconstruct. Hi, Galia. Hi, Kathryn. Hi, Amanda. Hi, everyone who's here. And so we're never not evolving. We can swindle ourselves into thinking that, oh, I'm just here, kind of hanging out in this frequency. Well, you're just exploring different ways of expressing that frequency. In other words, you're in a consciousness loop. So maybe if you feel like you're not elevating your frequency at the moment, it's only because you keep exploring things. Maybe they're new ways of expressing the same frequency or vibration you've been at for a long time, but you're always evolving, you're always changing. You're always bringing in new information to the level that we want to be consciously aware of that and use that to inform our growth process. That's an entirely individual standpoint, and it's up to us what we want to do with that information. But when we are in that place of constantly evolving ourselves and pushing the needle on our own growth, what we're really doing is helping all of consciousness to evolve. Because our individuated thread of awareness and being and expression of self, it always informs the collective, because we are part of that tapestry of the human collective family. Okay, we are never not a part of that. We download to each other through the DNA all the time, how to behave, how to act, how to think. We inform opinions and attitudes to each other all the time simply by transmitting signals through our DNA to each other. This is how we communicate as a human family. And this is very much how we create the collective experience. So if we are individually making great strides to evolve our growth and to move constantly into greater levels of spiritual awakening, keep enhancing our journey, in other words, we are informing the collective. We are downloading to the collective that this is a way of being. This is something that you can access. I'm doing it, so you can do it too. And we've been accessing a certain frequency for the collective for a really long time that is now outmoded. It is now something that we have outlived. We've learned the lessons. We've downloaded and completed a lot of the karmic cause and effect type lessons of, hey, if we do this as a collective to each other, this is what's going to happen. This is what the end result is going to be. And here in the 3D time space, we've learned so many lessons around that. We haven't anchored them fully in a way that we've agreed to, as a collective, move beyond these lessons, but we're getting there. We are moving that needle forward. And the more of us who are stepping up, even if it's just a handful of us, and we have a handful of people in our community who are paying attention to what we're saying, we are informing the collective. We are creating incrementally, like an inchworm, that point of tipping mass consciousness towards unity consciousness. And unity consciousness means we are ascending as a collective to move into a higher way of being that is informed by the God choice. And if you followed me before, you know I'm always talking about the God choice. And the God choice is that which is aligned with our highest and best good, the highest and best good of all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. Now, sometimes when people hear that, they think, well, doesn't that kind of cancel each other out? No. In our conditioned way of believing that we are living in a scarcity and lack paradigm, at first blush, sure, it's going to sound like that cancels each other out, because we've been taught, habituated, conditioned into having a competitive and comparison mentality. here in this 3D time space, when actually that couldn't be further from the truth. All that does is it furthers an agenda of division. But there's no room for that in unity consciousness. And if you're really asking to ascend, what you're asking for is to elevate your consciousness. And what you're asking for is unity consciousness, because elevated consciousness is unity consciousness. And unity consciousness is elevated consciousness, where you are living at the level of being able to look at your life, look at the choices and decisions you're making on a daily level, and say, even if you just take a beat, what's the God choice here? What kind of choice or decision can I make that is in alignment with source? In other words, in alignment with the God choice. That which is aligned with my highest and best good, the highest and best good for all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. Not only is this possible, it is the cornerstone of unity consciousness. And this is how we, in principle and practice, apply unity consciousness in our everyday life, so that we can gradually and incrementally get to that tipping point of mass consciousness towards unification. It's not something that just happens. It is 100% participatory. That means everyone is responsible if we're going to tip the mass consciousness towards unity consciousness. Everyone in their individuated thread of awareness is responsible for making the God choice. And even if in our daily life, and I'm going to give you an example from my own life in a minute here, even if in our daily life we are being triggered by many, many things, and right now I'm going to talk about this a little bit too, we're in a huge gap, we're in a frequency gap. We have a lot of elevated frequencies on this planet, and everything is moving like wildfire. The elevation of frequencies that are happening, the light codes that are coming to this planet and forming the collective, like, hey, there's a different way of being that's better for everybody. This is coming to the planet so fiercely, so fast at this point, that some people who aren't aware of this, who maybe don't have the verbiage like we do to talk about this stuff, and they don't have a way to have this information land with them in a way that it makes sense, a lot of these people are finding themselves to be in this gap where they know that things are different, meaning it just feels different, it feels intense, and they can't really explain it, they can't put their finger on what it is. But the relationships they're having with people, it's different. Their interpersonal relationship, the relationship they're having with themselves, it's different. Again, they may not be able to put their finger on what it is, but they know it's different. Things feel heavy, things feel intense. People feel like their hearts are exploding. The heart is the command center of ascended consciousness, and that is getting so many light codes and so much of an influx of new frequencies. A lot of people don't know what to do with this. And so it does drive those folks into this gap, this frequency gap, where it's like, I know I'm not who I was before, but I have no idea who I'm becoming. And I don't have a way to suss out what's happening in order to think that I'm not going mad or I'm not going insane. Hey, Crystal, does that make sense? So what that does as a collective for us is it drives the divide and conquer timelines into play a lot more. That's why we have so much division. That's why we have so much contrast and conflict. Even to the level where there's absolute aberration for certain things or certain people or certain behaviors, and why people lash out so frequently and do so with such kind of furious anger, okay? Most of the time, about 95.8% of the time, if you're on the receiving end of that, it has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it has something to do with you. I mean, we can be honest, right? We can be in a place where we don't have to play the victim anymore. We know when we're doing something that's out of integrity, right? We just do. But 95.8% of the time, I don't know where that statistic comes from. I just downloaded it. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with this person or people or groups of people being in this energetic gap where they know they're not who they were before, but they have no idea what's next. And it throws people off because it's incredibly confusing and it's incredibly overwhelming. If you're stuck in this place where you know what has been familiar to you in the past is no longer relevant for you, yet you have no idea what's on the road ahead, and there doesn't seem to be any concrete answers, there doesn't seem to be any like major theme of truth going on. In fact, there's many, many truths happening all at once. and you're vacillating between different levels of truth all the time, trying to figure out which one fits or feels most at home for you, it's incredibly infuriating. It's frustrating. It's overwhelming. Of course, people are going to lash out. And people who don't have a language around, this is what's happening to me, this is what's happening to the planet, the photon belt is extremely active, there's solar flares, the Schumann resonance is going through the roof. If people don't have a kind of language around this, it puts people into a real downward spiral. So instead of experiencing ascension and understanding these things, and I'm not saying that ascension is easy or isn't confusing or isn't well understood. You know, a lot of people, including myself, have moments where I'm aware I'm on this upward ascension spiral, but I don't know what to do with it yet. I certainly have the language around, okay, this is happening and this is going on, and there's a lot of conflating things that are overlapping all at once, and I can get that. But I'm still within that trying to suss out who I am. I have a little better grasp on that based on what I know and what I've been working on for over 20 years. But a lot of people don't. And a lot of people are in that downward descension spiral. And this is where people go into the lower emotional spectrum of frequency. And they explore a lot of contrast, especially within themselves. And so when you're experiencing people like that, and maybe you've been on the receiving end like I have with it, it has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with these people having an inner battleground that is highly active at the moment. And if we can be better compassionate witnesses of that, even though, you know, we may feel like really hurt and thin-skinned by some of the stuff that's happening, specifically to us, if we can enter into that God choice perspective, even when someone lashes out at you and say, hey, I'm just going to take a beat here, and instead of reacting, which would be my normal ego or small self, you know, way of responding, I'm going to take a beat and I'm just going to filter it through this. What's the God choice here? What's highest and best for me, highest and best for all involved, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved? And even if we don't know the answer to that, the second we access that frequency, of what is the God choice here, your vibration changes. And it creates a ripple effect towards that person who may have that ire directed at you, okay? It creates a ripple effect, and it comes from the heart. Again, the command center of ascended consciousness. And it ripples out to not only that person, but the collective. And the person who's on the receiving end of you rippling out that compassionate witness energy, it's going to ripple out from them to their community, and so on and so forth and so forth. Right? Do you guys remember that commercial Body on Tap from the 70s? I'm really dating myself here. But it's a woman talking about, first of all, it's a shampoo made with beer, or that's what the marketing was anyway. It's called Body on Tap. And it's a woman talking about how great the shampoo is, and it's her frame, and then it goes into like that kind of Brady Bunch frame where it goes like, and I told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends. The next thing you have the full TV screen filled up with all these people who are like, I love Body on Tap. It's kind of the same thing with having compassionate witness energy and being in the place where you can discern what the God choice is. That is you anchoring in unity consciousness and principle and practice. You remember it, Olivia? Good, I'm not alone. And yes, I am old. I'm almost 50. But that's how it works, you guys. That's how it works. So I'll give you an example from my life. For those of you who are, really feeling triggered right now, you may want to go back again and listen to my explanation about those folks who are in the gap. And it's really important for us that those of us who are here and identify with pushing the needle forward on unity consciousness, it's really important for us to have that compassionate witness energy, because this is the only way we're going to create the tipping point of mass consciousness going forward towards unification, towards ascension. That's the only way. It's the only way. It is not something that just happens. It requires our commitment and dedication and daily vigilance with it. And even in the face of really ugly triggers, which, let's face it, there are a lot of them right now. There is a lot of divide and conquer timelines really driving a wedge between people. It's not real. It is a false timeline. Divide and conquer timelines are false timelines. And what is a false timeline? Anything that is not aligned with our journey of spiritual awakening. Anything that is not pushing the needle forward into unification of the human family. I mean, why do you think we're really here? When I talk about that, and some people feel like, well, then there's a lot of false timelines. Yup, absolutely, absolutely. But why do you really think we're here? Other than to remember who we are and have a sense of empowerment in that, and a sense of sovereignty, being able to make free will choices from that higher vantage point of consciousness rather than from a lower lack and scarcity paradigm, which again is not real. Why do you really think we're here? And I'm not trying to call anybody out or, be like a finger pointer. I'm asking, like, what do you think this is all about? This whole human existence thing, if it's not to come together and find a higher way of being and to lift each other up and to share this human experience with integrity and love and compassion and mercy and tenderness and kindness with each other. You really think it's about like survival of the fittest and straight up Darwinian type living and comparison and competition and driving the enemy away, gouging out the enemy's eyes, and war and pestilence and violence? Do you really think that the wonder and beauty of this world was created for that? Or the wonder and beauty of this universe, this cosmos, the dimensions, the galaxies, the nebula, you think it was all created for that? I mean, to me, it seems so simple. And when I break it down in my own mind, my own everyday experience, and I start to look at everything that's happening around me through that lens of perception, making the God choice is easy because I know what world I want to live in. And I've known enough of this world of competition and comparison and driving the enemy down and vanquishing your foe. And I've seen where that's gotten us. It's not pretty, right? So I get haters. It happens. Not as often as it used to. Because if you've followed me for a while, you know that my message, even though maybe I talk about some things that are controversial or maybe a little esoteric sometimes, there's always the bedrock of whatever message I'm bringing forth, and that is, we got to come together, you guys, and we can do it. It's always a message of hope. It's always a message of love. How to reach out and be kind, how to be in a compassionate witness energy, how to make the God choice, how to collapse things and timelines that are false and against your journey of spiritual awakening, how to look at the contrast of situations and take the higher road. This is at the bedrock of all of my messages and everything I bring forward to you guys. But I get haters. It happens. It happens. And so when I got a hater this past week on my YouTube channel, which is just famous for trolling. Facebook is famous for trolling too, but so is YouTube. And I have like 1,500 followers or something like that on YouTube. So I have a pretty big audience. And every once in a while, I have someone who feels obliged to call me out. And this person's calling me, a hypocrite. I really need to wake up to what's really going on. And going through the whole litany of conspiracy theories that are popular to a certain group on the planet. I'm not going to say who they are, but you should pretty much know what I'm talking about. And that I need to wake up, and all of these things that I'm talking about, they're staged and it's actors, and so-and-so is going to save the world, and everything else is just false and whatever. You get the drift, what I'm talking about. And I found it really interesting, and I don't read all, I get a sense, if I get haters' comments, I do not consent to my energy in reading the whole thing. I get a sense of what that person is going to write, or usually when persons are writing hateful stuff, it goes on and on and on. So I can usually get a feel for that right away, and I'm like, okay, delete and block. I don't even bother to respond, because to me, being in integrity with unity consciousness means I hold a certain vibration. And I don't consent to being triggered in the way that I used to. I used to be very thin-skinned about that stuff, and I used to take it all very personally. I don't anymore. And I'll tell you why. So I found it really interesting that this person, in calling me a hypocrite and how I need to wake up and all this other stuff, had watched 6 of my videos. 6 of my videos to inform their perspective of me. Pretty much you get a flavor for who I am right off the bat, I would think. But I found it very interesting that this person continued to watch 6 of my videos and just berate me in every single one of them, calling out certain things. So they had obviously watched the entirety of all the videos too. They didn't just watch a little bit and decide to leave their hateful comment. Because of the content of the video, I know they watched the whole thing because of what they were commenting on. And I found that very interesting. And instead of responding at all, which I don't anymore, I just delete and I block and I, excommunicate the user from my channel. Because I'm not their person and they're not mine. So there's no reason for us to mix and match frequencies there. And I'm not going to lower my vibration. And I'm certainly not going to say anything that is going to change that person's perspective. But this person decided to go a little further and reach out to me personally, Facebook Messenger. And again, a litany of all these ways that I'm wrong and all the ways I'm a hypocrite and I need to wake up and all this other stuff. And all I did was respond. Well, and I deleted him and blocked him after I wrote the thing. Him or her, I don't know. It was usually trollers. They have no picture of themselves and it's, code name. Digital awareness was their code name. And I think it was something like that. Anyway, this person had reached out and was like telling me all these things. And all I did was respond, I hope you find the answers that you're looking for. And I hope you find peace. That's it. Because that is compassionate witness energy. That's what that looks like. That's what that is in principle and practice. There's no need for me to go into ego and respond at that level. There's no need for me to try to call out every single explicit thing that that person wrote about me in the ways that I was wrong. Because I'm not going to change that person's mind. And we are on different frequencies. We're operating at different spectrums of frequency. And I'm not going to bring mine down to address where that person is at. My only hope and my compassionate witness energy is driven towards, I hope that you find the answers that you're looking for, and I hope you find peace. Because this is not a person who has peace in their soul. This is not a person who feels at home in the world or in their life. This is not a person who understands that he or she is smack dab in the middle of a divide and conquer false timeline and is in collusion with certain beliefs that are perpetuating more of the divide and conquer and false timelines here on the planet. Does that make sense? And in order to respond at that level, we have to be in compassionate witness energy, and that has to be our default pretty much all the time. It requires our vigilance to, even though we might get directed by external triggers towards a place we don't want to be energetically, it is always our responsibility to find that default and to do the redirect. No one makes you angry. No one makes you unworthy. No one makes you a hypocrite. It is how you respond to an external trigger, whether it's from a person, event, situation, etc. Yeah? The responsibility is always on your shoulders to be that vanguard of your own energetic frequency and to have those boundaries, pretty solid for yourself. Does it take vigilance? Yes. Is it easy? No. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not easy. But it always has to be filtered through what is my commitment to myself to maintain a certain frequency that's in alignment with source? What is my level of dedication to that? And what is my level of commitment and dedication to hoping that I can maintain the God choice in all of my decisions and how I respond to external triggers in my environment? Can I maintain a certain frequency when I'm responding to others, even if they are acting the fool and being way out of line? Think of it this way. To the level you feel like you have to react and go into ego and retaliate or have retribution, you have just let down your boundaries completely. You let that person in and swindle you out of your highest and best frequency for you and your God choice for you. You don't have to do that, but it is a choice. And if we are committed to the ascension process, elevating our consciousness, attaining and maintaining unity consciousness, it has to be a decision that doesn't waver. It has to be across the board. If you're committed to that tipping point of mass consciousness, that is what it requires. Our vigilance, our dedication, our commitment, and constantly asking ourselves, like, how bad do I want this? And it goes beyond our needs, because we are working towards the better situation for the entire planet, the human family, right? And it took me a long time to suss out how important that was for me. And in the work that I do, and the clients that I serve, and the community that I dedicate myself to, I don't want to be wishy-washy with that. I want to have a straight road ahead. Like, sure, there's going to be things that misdirect me and draw my attention away from my commitment to unity consciousness, but I don't have to stay or marinate in those energies. I can look at it, be a compassionate witness, and then redirect. And we have to find what that feels like for us. So when I did that home frequency, finding your home frequency video, it's on my YouTube channel. I'll put it here in the comments too. That's my default. That's my set point, my energetic set point that I commit to and I dedicate myself to. And it to maintain it, it requires constant attention. It's just like, it's cleaning house. You might clean your house one weekend and it's spotless and it's beautiful. The floors are clean. You've dusted. You even dusted the floorboards. If you have hardwood flooring, maybe you got the mop out and did that nice, wood finishing cleaner, and your floors are sparkly, and you even clean the mirrors in your bathroom and it's spotless. But what happens? Dust, dirt, right? If you have a dog, like I do, you got to clean again. It requires constant maintenance. You are cleaning house. And you're like spit shining that frequency as much as you possibly can. That requires your constant attention, awareness, being present in your now moment with your feelings, being honest with what you're feeling. I maintain unity consciousness as my default energetic set point, but I'm fully aware of when I'm in contrast to that. Sure, I get triggered by little things. Like, don't sit in the car with me sometimes when I'm behind someone who's going 20 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone. Oh my God, the road rage. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there. I'm not going to deny it. I'm human. I have those moments. I got to get somewhere. I want to be somewhere. Get out of my way. Right? We can't be 100% in one frequency all the time. That is not the nature of our existence. But we always have the choice to respond how we want to redirect that energy, where we want to reclaim our energy, right? Where we want to set those boundaries so that no one can access our energy and take it from us, or at least provide us with the illusion that someone can take our energy from us, right? So it is challenging, no doubt about it. But how committed and dedicated are you, right? How committed and dedicated are you? So given my example, I'm sure you could think of some triggers that are happening in your life right now. Maybe it's someone that's very close to you. This person I used as my example is a stranger. But maybe, it's a stranger for you, or maybe it's someone that you know. Maybe it's your husband, maybe it's your wife, maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's your mailman. Who knows? Maybe it's a certain type of event or situation that kind of keeps cropping up in your life. Maybe the reason it keeps cropping up is because it's showing you that contrast, because it's saying, are you ready to make a different choice around this yet? The reason why we enter into consciousness loops and stay there is because we're making the same kind of choices from the same emotional energetic level over and over again. If you change the emotional energetic level, if you even filter what you've been doing before that's a recurring thing and filtering it through the God choice, here's the benefit of that. You're going to change that frequency of you right away. Even if you're looking at a situation where you don't have the answer to it, if you bring this up, what is the God choice here? And believe me, your higher self, your God self, when you say that, it knows what you're talking about. Because you're speaking directly to that elevated awareness of you, that God self level of you. Believe me, that level always knows what the God choice is. So when you say, what is the God choice here? Even if you take a minute and retreat for like a couple seconds, a couple beats, it could be a situation that has presented itself to you many times before, the same kind of person, the same kind of event, same kind of scenario, whatever that is. Having a different response to it energetically, emotionally, it's going to change the dynamic of that outcome. Always and ever, that is the truth. So if you were to come at this recurring theme in your life and say, okay, get really present, feel the anger. I'm not saying press it down, feel it, but say, what is the God choice here? What is highest and best for me? What is the highest and best for all involved, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved? Even if the answer doesn't come, just by bringing that up, you've already changed your vibration. You've elevated it. And all you have to do in that moment is just simply allow. Allow yourself to be in that space. Give yourself the grace and the space to expand into that. Even if answers don't come right away, you're going to have a different feeling take over. And whenever a different feeling takes over, you have the opportunity to respond differently to that recurring theme, that recurring kind of person, that situation, scenario that keeps cropping up in your life and keeping you in a consciousness loop and keeping you out of alignment with Source. And the best way to even further suss this out is that, how are you responding to something that is a recurring theme? Does it feel good or does it feel bad? You know, sometimes we keep ourselves in self-deception and self-denial by making the same kind of choices over and over again, because the outcome may not be good, but it is predictable. And we like predictability. We like familiarity. That's just kind of our primordial set point. You know, we want to feel safe. And even if like the outcome is kind of shitty, if it's predictable in a fucked up kind of way, that is safe. I'm just going to say it. And a lot of us, myself included, made many decisions in our lifetime based on that, on what's predictable. Because what's predictable can also be translated, it's kind of safe. But if you are in a place where you know, yeah, it's predictable and safe, but it doesn't feel good, the easy translation there, you're out of alignment with Source. To really reverse engineer this and break it down, there are two states of being. You are either in alignment with Source or you are out of alignment with Source. There's no gray area there. You can't have one foot in Source and one foot out of Source. You're either in or you're out. And when you're in alignment with Source, it feels good. Even though it might feel sketchy, like, I don't know what's next after this, but it feels like, if you're really honest and you're present with your emotions, some sort of relief. It feels like an unburdening. Even if you don't know what to do next, even if you're in familiar and uncomfortable territory, it's still like, but I feel different than I did before, and this kind of feels good. And if you're not in a place where you're used to being present with your emotions, you're not going to be able to know that. You're not going to be able to suss it out. But it's either going to feel, at the end of the day, it's either going to feel good or it's going to feel bad. And if it doesn't feel good, if it feels bad, you are out of alignment with Source. It kind of is that simple. And I hate to be like glib about it, but it really is that. And we're so conditioned to thinking like this whole ascension process, moving towards elevated consciousness, unity consciousness, it can't be simple. It will be a struggle for a little while. I'm not going to lie that. Humanity is struggling to find its footing with unity consciousness. But there are so many of us on this planet who are driving that process forward in what they do every day. I am one of those people. You should probably get a feel for that about me, with what I talk about, with what I share. That is really important for me because I know there is something better for all of us. It's simple, but it's not easy. Those are two different things. Because applying the principle in practice, we must be vigilant. We must be dedicated. We must be committed. We have to constantly maintain this frequency. It can be simple if you just create that for yourself every day, that level of dedication. Like, how can I clean up my frequency today? I'm aware of this the second I wake up in the morning. I'm aware of how I feel. And if it's, either way, I go into a gratitude practice, like right when I wake up, before I look at my phone, before I do anything. And I collapse any timelines where I feel like out of integrity with, this doesn't feel good today, or I had this weird dream. And I'll just go into a very quick and dirty collapsing timeline process. But I go into gratitude and I start my day from that frequency. You may want to do that too. It sounds very simple, but just go through a mental list of 5 or 6 things that you're grateful for. A comfy bed that you're waking up out of. Even if it's an alarm clock waking you up. Or the sun is shining. Your heat is on. Anything. Hot water in my shower. A cup of coffee that I'm going to get my hands on in 10 minutes. There's so many things to be grateful for. So the way I look at, I would love to discuss more the way you describe good and bad feeling. Oh, perfect segue, because this is what I was about to talk about next. The way you make yourself or correct yourself, correct your frequency. If you're in that place where you're not feeling bad, in other words, you're feeling bad, you're out of alignment with source. You're not feeling empowered. You're not feeling like you have some freedom of choice. You're not feeling like you've been making the best decisions and you're on a trajectory of probably making more bad decisions. Whatever is the feeling, and you know that you're feeling bad, you're out of alignment with source. Always reach for the next best available frequency. And how do you do that? Gratitude. Because we all have something to be grateful for. Every single one of us. I'm wearing shoes on my feet. It's cold outside. I just bought these awesome new socks and they're so comfy. I love my dog. There's food in my fridge, right? I can walk outside and feel really grounded and connected to the earth. I can feel the sun shining on my face. I can look up at night and see the stars twinkling in a beautiful, beautiful midnight sky. I can feel my heartbeat. I can feel my heartbeat. That's a simple connection to feeling better. When you notice you're out of alignment with source, you're also out of alignment with unity consciousness. What is the next best available frequency you can opt for? It's pretty much always going to be gratitude, because it's right there. Sometimes we think when we're feeling bad, we have to go to the complete opposite of the spectrum and feel really, really super good. Let's be honest, that's not accessible for most people. But the next best available frequency is, and the easiest way, the simplest way to access that is through gratitude, right? I hope that helps, Crystal. So I know that there's so much to think about with this, and I know that we are feeling really, really triggered. But when we are making the God choice, when we are looking at things through that filter, just to recap, we change our frequency right away. Doesn't matter if you have full access to the answers of what is the God choice or what are the God choices here. Chances are it'll be a feeling and you'll know what to do. And the more you practice it, the more you move into mastery with it. That's true of mastery every single time. You don't just master something right away. You don't just access all the information of something right away. It is practice. It's something you do until it's who you become. That is always true of mastery. So the more you practice it, the more you're practicing being in the frequency of unity consciousness, practicing the God choice. Just by asking the question, what is the God choice here? You're elevating your frequency, you're guaranteeing that. So you can go to gratitude to access the next available frequency, or you can go into asking, what is the God choice here? That's the next best available frequency you can always access when you're feeling out of alignment with Source, out of alignment with unity consciousness. Okay? That's the benefit. Being honest with your feelings in the moment. A lot of us don't want to do that. A lot of us don't take responsibility for what we are feeling. Or we just don't notice it, or choose not to have awareness with it. We choose to think, oh, I'll just do this. I'll just sit and meditate. We'll find some way to kind of spiritually sidestep. Do you know what I mean by spiritually sidestep? So we think if we go into, something that is akin to being in a higher frequency, like meditating, or putting on like a YouTube channel that has a meditation track and a solfeggio frequency and just zoning out. If you're not dealing with that emotion in the moment, and you're just going to something and it's like, oh, I'll just be positive, you are spiritually sidestepping. You're not taking responsibility for your feeling. You're not taking responsibility then for the frequency you're occupying. And no one makes you be in that frequency. You are choosing that. Just like my example with the hater. I could have chosen to be in their frequency and chosen to combat that person and cherry pick every little thing that he said about where I was wrong or terrible or all these other things. But I have such a commitment and dedication to maintaining a certain frequency that I don't even feel those triggers anymore. I'm not as thin-skinned that I used to be. Instead, the overriding emotion for me is, I just want that person to be at peace. I just want that person to find the answers they're looking for. I fully recognize now I'm not that person. But I can still put out the frequency that I'm not taking any of your shit on because it's not mine. It's not mine to deal with. So that's not an emotion I have to suss out. I want to bathe that person in peace and a sense of serenity and tranquility. And I hope that that is enough to maybe help them open up a pathway to find the answers that they're looking for. That's what I hope. And sometimes having that level of integrity has a ripple effect that we may not always see, but it's going to be a lot better than being in that place where you constantly have that inner battleground where you're waging war, and you're not waging war with anyone except yourself in those moments, right? You guys get that? Let me see the comments here. How do you navigate these? You're going to have to get more specific about that, Crystal. How do you navigate what and in what sense? What about frequencies that are elevated coming through and being integrated? We do not know what or how to use them, and it has to be integrated before understood. Not everything that's coming in right now, we are in a place frequency-wise to understand. Because that's how wide these range of frequencies are right now. Some of them are so big, and a lot of us are just not at that level. And that's not diminishing you or where you're at. I'm just saying, in the collective, some of these frequencies are so big that all we can do, some of us are here to just hold space for those higher frequencies in a way that they can be disseminated and talked about and explained. A lot of this stuff is awaiting our frequency to come up. Does that make sense? So don't get too hung up on, I'm not understanding all this stuff that's coming in. Everything that is coming into your field or frequency of awareness and is being disseminated with you in a way that it makes sense and it's creating a blended reality for you of high consciousness awareness and your 3D at the same time, that's what's meant for you. The universe is never delivering to you anything that you're not yet ready to handle. For the collective, and in terms of the entire planetary timeline, there are things that are coming in that not all of us can use just yet. That's okay. And just give yourself the grace and the space that the universe will let me know. My God self will let me know when I'm ready to disseminate and download these frequencies in a way that I can understand them where I'm at, okay? And it's also constant diligence, constant vigilance for us to keep clearing the way to upping our frequency. These can trigger our central nervous system. I ask Source, what do I do with this awareness? Our central nervous system is being triggered on the daily. That's absolutely true. So finding that place within yourself that is your home frequency. So I'm going to put that video in the comments here for you to check out. This will always stop the override that is happening with your central nervous system, finding your home frequency, asking what is the God choice. It also takes the central nervous system and anything that's on overdrive in your system in general down. When you are asking the God choice, it also informs the fascia, the connective tissue, which is a direct transmitter of higher frequencies. And it kind of gives instruction sets to the body what to do with that stuff. And sometimes if the frequencies are really, really high vibration, that can throw the central nervous system off, and it can throw the instruction sets off. And we don't know, like, I don't know what to do with this. That is always the impetus for us to find that home frequency where we feel that neutrality. So please watch that video, Crystal, because I'm not going to go into it here too much because I have a whole video about it, but I will tag you on it. I hope that helps. So I know there's, yeah, the fascia is incredible. I have a video about that too. I'll tag you on that too. So I really hope that this has helped you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have before we sign off here. And I know this is big stuff. So that's why I want to make this kind of practical to talk about, and that no one, even if we're, you know, self-proclaimed in a higher frequency, no one is immune from the dark night of the soul that's happening for the planet, okay? No one is immune. And I know that there's a lot of people in the spiritual community, it's like, I maintain this vibe and I'm in this frequency all the time. Bullshit. Bullshit. You're a human, you get triggered, okay? The best holders and keepers of the higher frequency and holding that space for higher frequency on the planet, sure, we feel the triggers too, but we constantly know how to redirect our energy, find our home frequency, bring ourselves back to the God choice. I'm just trying to be real. You crack me up. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't want to be one of those coaches, etc., that is just talking out of their ass all the time. Like, just do this and everything's going to be great. No, we're being triggered on the daily. Our central nervous system is being triggered all the time. We are, you know, constantly being invited to look at the contrast in our reality and say, I either want to be in alignment with Source or I want to be out of alignment with Source, because that is a choice. And sometimes we're not consciously making the choice to be out of alignment with Source, but that is indeed what we're doing. And so we have to check ourselves. We got to be responsible with our own energy, having good boundaries, being able to find our home frequency and constantly redirect to that, asking what the God choice is, being willing to be in compassionate witness energy. We have to start there, because there are a lot of people who are not even willing to be in compassionate witness energy. So we have to ask ourselves, am I willing to be a compassionate witness for a lot of people I see acting the fool in the world? Are you? Be honest with yourself. And if you say yes, then your next step is to commit and to be dedicated to that. And if you are really committed and dedicated to being someone who wants to hold that light and space for the planet to evolve and push that needle towards the tipping point of mass consciousness, you're going to have to agree to a lot of stuff I'm talking about here. Again, is it simple? Kind of. It is pretty simple. Is it easy? No. No. But I always think that anything that's really worth doing, that benefits the holistic nature of everyone on the planet, it's worth taking a little time and effort to do. Yeah? This is what I call hands off. Nice. All right, you guys, I'm going to close it out for today. Thank you so much for being here and listening and being a part of this, this conversation. And I will have this video up on my YouTube channel if you want to watch it again, and I'll put in the comments here a couple of the videos that I mentioned, one about the fascia, but also finding your home frequency as well. And so thanks so much, you guys. Love and peace. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.